We're in the middle of the Maimah Vayishlach Yehoshua, and we're holding in Ois Daled, a couple of lines in, by note 17. So he's saying that the mitzvah of to conquer the land of Eretz Yisrael, even though it was a mitzvah that was given then to Moshe Rabbeinu, since it's written in the Torah, it's in a Heirah Nitzchis. Not only is it a Heirah Nitzchis, not only is it a Heirah Nitzchis, it is also in Ruchnis, practical for today also. So we have the mitzvah to conquer these 7 nations. What is it in Ruchnis? So the Rambam brings it down as one of the Tariq mitzvahs. So there's a few aspects. One is that it's an active mitzvah today, if it would be possible, to find who were the 7 nations of Eretz Canaan. That's one. And two, there's the spiritual content, which is active today also. Every neshama comes down to fulfill all 613 mitzvahs. Sometimes it's done in one Gilgul, sometimes it's done in a different Gilgul. And it seems, in other places, it implies that not always can you actually do the mitzvah physically. That, and in this case, it shines through that we cannot today do actively the mitzvah of conquering or destroying the 7 nations because we don't know who they are. If we would know who they are, we would. At the same time, there's now the spiritual, the ruchnisdike aspect of the mitzvah, which is to work through or to inspect at least the midas of our nefesh habamis, the av and yira. What's it attached to? So you can fulfill the mitzvah in ruchnis. That can also be a way to fulfill the Tariq mitzvahs. Sometimes they have to be fulfilled actually physically, and sometimes they can be fulfilled in their ruchni's content. So today, for sure, we can do it on the ruchni's content. So it's very interesting that every neshama has to fulfill all the Tariq mitzvahs, but it could be that you're doing it not physically, but with the spiritual content of what the mitzvah is. And so your neshama has that piece also because depending on in what generation the person lives, they've got that opportunity to be involved in the mitzvah, either physically or spiritually. And another way is, for example, korbanos. Maybe if you would have lived in the time of the Beis Hamikdash, you would never bought a korban chatas or a korban asham, possibly. But today, by learning the dinim, you can. It's as if you brought the korban. That might be one way of fulfilling that mitzvah. And in general, davening, the Chazal instituted. It says davening is instead of korbanos. So going through the steps of davening to bring out the love for Hashem and the yira for Hashem, that could replace in some way or fulfill the injunction, the mitzvah of bringing korbanos. So it's a very complex system, but we have here in general terms that the mitzvahs that the Rambam mentions are active mitzvahs today, in the practical sense, if it's possible to fulfill them, if those circumstances show up. And for sure, they all apply. Everything in the Torah applies in a spiritual terms. Those with the Rambam says is the mitzvahs apply in those things in particular, and even those things which are not listed as one of the Tariq mitzvahs. Also, everything of the Torah is nitzchi. It is nitzchi, is an internal way of connecting to Hashem. So we're holding an Ois Daled by note 17. So Av shekivish eretz shivas amameh, who hafichas zayin midas the nefesh habamis l'kedusha, even though that the conquering of the land of the 7 nations in service to Hashem means turning around the midas of the nefesh habamis, there should be kedusha, and the inyan zeh shaykh l'tzadikim, and that avodah is shaykh l'tzadikim. They've been able to work through, so they're no longer attached any way to the nefesh habamis. They're all to worldliness. They're all attached only to elokus. That's what the tzaddikim are able to do. Ve'ein kol adam zeichel lezeh. That every person is not zeichel to this. Ki kol echad v'echad miyisrael. However, every yid tzorach lasis kol masha b'yocholti lekaimas hashvur shemash bin oisi titzadik. That he's ordered that they said to him before he came down that he should be a tzaddik. Not every yid's zeicher to this level that they can turn their middos to be completely connected over to Hashem. However, the Alter Rebbe explains in Tanya that there are multiple levels of this midas, of the midas. It's multi-layered, and there's some things that we are able to do. This that Moshe sent spies to check out and spy out the land. So there's that spying is the beginning, conquering is a second thing. So to inspect and evaluate where we're holding, that we're able to do. If you look down at the bottom of the page, there's a star. There's a star with a parenthesis, the second one. He says, "Umikol shkein shluchim aragnim losu es haaretz," and have for sure that this is shaykh to every person sending out meraglim to inspect the land. Shinyanim hu liv choin es muhus avavira. That the union of sending out spies is to inspect, to evaluate the avavira. So that we're able to do. There's a level of self-introspection that a person's able to do and evaluate where's he holding. What is he attached to with his avavira? You might not be able to turn it around and become the level of a tzaddik, but at least evaluate and have an honest evaluation of where you're holding that we're able to do. So that's one piece. A second thing is that the Alter Rebbe explains in Perik Yud Zayin in Tanya a very interesting aspect of Av and Yira. There's the feeling in your heart that you have, a passion, a love, and that has multiple levels. It's a huge spectrum, from infatuation and passion to I like it. Or it makes sense that I should like it. There's what's called intellectual love. You can have that between people, that you don't feel the love and the connection, but you can understand that I should be attached to them. They've done so much for me. I should be nice to them. I should be connected. I shouldn't do anything that would hurt them because they've been so kind to me. So do you feel it? Are you locked in on an emotional level? Maybe not. But intellectually, you're spurred on to have that connection. So that can be between people, and through understanding that Hashem gives us everything that we need. He is our life. He is our life-giving energy. He provides us with the sustenance and our existence, our sustenance on all levels. So it makes sense that I should want to do what he says. It makes sense that I should want to be connected to Hashem. It makes sense that I shouldn't want to do something that he doesn't like. So that's more, and therefore, I'll keep Shabbos, put on tefillin, wear tzitzis, give tzedakah, learn Torah. I'll do all the mitzvahs that Hashem said. So is it a feeling of infatuation and of love that's a burning desire that I have? Like somebody who's thirsty, hasn't drunk water for a few days, and you have a feeling of, I need water, otherwise I'm not going to exist. I need to feel connected to Hashem, otherwise life is not worth living. Not necessarily. But you can understand that the world is not, it doesn't exist on its own. It hasn't always been here. It's a created entity, and Hashem is creating it. And there's a purpose to the creation. And he's created this multifaceted world of Doimim, Sameach, Chaim, Medaber. And this is a life invested into the world. And Hashem is also not limited to this type of existence. He's bleedful. He was without limit. and the purpose of why the world is created, Bereshis B'Shvil Yisrael B'Shvil HaTorah. And through reflecting on this, a person would come to realize that he should, the purpose of his existence is to serve Hashem, like the Mishnah says, my whole being is only to serve Hashem. That's called a love which is intellectual, that brings to that leads and pushes the person to do the mitzvahs. In other words, it's a love that is not in the heart, more intellectual, but it leads to thought, speech, and action of serving Hashem. So what is that? Is that the Yerichai love, or is that the Eretz Canaan love? So this the Alter Rebbe says we'll see it now in Order 18, and explains in Tanya, it's a ava that leads to action. And the whole Tanya is built based on the pasuk Ki karev elecha hadav ma'od v'ficha ubuvavcha lasoisei. The whole Tanya the purpose is to show how it's close to a person, that it's within the person's grasp in a very easy way, simple way. You have the koichos to do this, to serve Hashem in thought, speech, and action. The Tanya is geared for that, so therefore you can have this intellectual love, this understanding that spurs and motivates and leads the person into learning Torah, keeping his mind focused on serving Hashem, saying words of Torah and davening and only positive words of holy things, not negative things, and action of Maisa. So this is shaykh to everybody. So there's an aspect of the love that relates to action. You don't have the full passion, fine. Okay, that's a Vedas Tzaddikim. But this level we do have. Ha'ora 18. Va'avsha ava v'yira ha'mevim. Let's see some mitzvahs. Even the av and yira that brings to the doing of the mitzvahs. Rei Tanya Perik, Reish Perik Yud Zayin, etc. That's got to be every person. The love that brings to the mitzvahs, the intellectual piece. And this love, it says, that's close to every person to be able to do, as he says in Tanya, the beginning of Perik Red Yud Zayin. And you need this type of love in order to do the mitzvahs. It's not just a blind doing. It's a person. Person has a mind, he's got a heart, so he's got to be totally involved. Therefore, this type of love is included in the Yerichai level, leading to the Machshava Dibra Maisa, because it's the intellectual love. The Inyan Kivish Eretz Shiva Amamen, he avoided the Aviyira Atzmon. The conquering of the land, the whole land, that's the Aviyira itself. Shalomayla Mahamidas Amaviyim Lasiya, which is higher than the midas that bring to the action. So this is the two levels. The one level of midos of Ava Yira itself, let's call it a passion, infatuation, lava with Hashem. But then there's the Ava that leads to the mitzvahs. So that level of Ava has also got to do with Yerichai.